Today we are going to talk about the 6 best stop motion apps for Android phones of 2020 so you can start making stop motion videos on your phone. Let's go! Hey guys, welcome back to Learning Curve Tech, where I learn tech with you. And today we are talking about the 6 best stop motion apps for Android of 2020. I thought since you liked the top 3 best stop motion apps so much, which is that video above, so check it out, you would probably want to see more. So here it is, 6 more stop motion apps, but this time specifically for Android. But before we begin, how about a brief word from the sponsor of this video? Hello, it's me. If you're watching this video, you probably like using tech to be creative. Well, fortunately for you, this channel is all about using tech to be creative. So why don't you head down there and hit that subscribe button and the bell to be the first to get weekly creative tech videos. You will not regret it. Now, back to the video. So a quick note on the ratings of this video. All of these ratings are based on my opinion and also based on online reviews. I rated based on usability, image quality, manual controls, speed, interface, and reliability. So in 6th place on the list today is PicPak. Now PicPak is definitely not my first pick, no pun intended, but it's probably the best of the worst apps. I didn't buy the paid version because I wanted all apps on this list to be free, but I'm sure if you spent a little extra money for the paid version, which I believe is like $3, then it's probably a pretty decent app. It has really good ratings, surprisingly, so I just decided to include it on the list just because. So on my rating list, which I have on this piece of paper, I put a usability of 5 out of 10. PicPak is very hard to figure out for me. I did not find it easy, but once you get the hang of it, it is a little bit easier to use, but the way that the software is set up is not really the greatest. The image quality is 2 out of 10. The image quality in the free version of PicPak is terrible. It is pretty much the lowest quality of any on the list. It's super pixely, and PicPak adds these really annoying watermarks throughout the video. For manual controls, I gave it a 6 out of 10. It actually had a lot of manual controls. However, it didn't have as many tools as I would have liked. The speed of the app is probably around a 5 out of 10. It wasn't fast and it wasn't slow. The interface is 4 out of 10. To be honest, this app kind of seems a little outdated in some respects, and it also seems more up to date. One of the most annoying things I found with PicPak was all of the constant updates. You can update to this, you can update to that, here's a ad. It kind of drove me a little crazy, but overall, the interface was okay. In reliability, PicPak scored 5 out of 10. It seemed like a pretty reliable app, but as you can already tell, I am pretty biased against it. So I gave it a 5 out of 10. So overall, PicPak has a score of 27 out of 60, which is pretty bad. In 5th place on my list today is GIFmob. This one was super simplistic. I gave it a usability rating of 7 out of 10. It was extremely easy to use, but it really didn't do as much as I would have liked it to do. I gave it an image quality of 3 out of 10. The image quality was pretty terrible, not quite as bad as PicPak's, however, and it didn't have any watermarks, so when it comes to manual controls, GIFmob got a rating of 1 out of 10. The worst rating I could have gave it. I would have gave it a -1 if I could. It had basically no manual controls at all. I gave it a speed of 8 out of 10, as it was probably almost the fastest on this list. It was incredibly fast. It did everything really snappy, but it also wasn't the fastest. The interface has a rating of 4 out of 10. It was a little confusing, and there were lots of ads as well. And reliability, it got a really good score actually of 7 out of 10. It was incredibly reliable for such a poorly performing app in other areas. This is mostly because I didn't experience any crashes, so that brings GIFMob to a total of 30 out of 60, which is only a little bit better than PicPack, but it did definitely get better scores for not having ridiculous watermarks everywhere. In fourth place is an extremely surprising one to me. It's called Stop Motion Lunis. I think that's how you pronounce it. It seems like it's a Spanish app. All the words are in Spanish, but I actually didn't find that to make much of a difference at all. I gave it an incredibly good usability score of 9 out of 10. It was so easy and so simple, but at the same time, it did have enough features to make you want to use it. It was geared more towards kids though. I gave it an image quality of 8 out of 10, which is actually really surprising to me. Only thing I don't like is that you cannot change the frame rate from what I experienced. Now for manual controls, I gave it 2 out of 10, which is basically almost completely terrible. In terms of speed, I gave it a rating of 6 out of 10. When it came to some of the buttons, there was a bit of a load, which does tend to annoy me a little bit. Interface got a score of 6 out of 10, mostly because I think this would be a really great app for children. And for reliability, it got a really good score of 8 out of 10. It seemed pretty reliable to me. It never crashed, and all the buttons always did what they were supposed to do. It was all very simple and straightforward, as it should be. And so that gives Stop Motion Lunis a score of 38 out of 60, so we're moving on up. And you're gonna want to stick around for the second one. The second one really surprised me. So moving on, we are now in third place on the list with LifeLapse. Now for the ratings, LifeLapse has a usability rating of 6 out of 10. It was actually a really easy to use app, but there were some complications that kind of made it a little confusing at first. But once you get to know it, it's not too bad at all. The image quality is 8 out of 10. The image quality was excellent. I almost would have given it a 9 out of 10, except for the fact that there was a annoying little watermark that just really distracted from the whole video. The manual controls rating is 8 out of 10. It had a lot of manual controls, and a lot of them I liked, like locking, the exposure, and the white balance. The speed is 5 out of 10, mostly because it was a slower app. Annoying thing was a lot of the buttons, when you press on them, they seemed to not react immediately like I would have hoped from this very well rated app. When it comes to interface, LifeLapse had a rating of 5 out of 10, mostly because there were so many ads, and the interface was also quite similar to PicPack. And for reliability, LifeLapse has a score of 6 out of 10. It was a pretty reliable app, except for the fact that when you pressed on buttons, like I mentioned earlier, the buttons sometimes didn't respond. It just seemed to be a little bit slower and a little bit less reliable than other apps. So in total, LifeLapse has a score of 38 out of 60. Okay, now in second place, I did not expect this to even get on the list at all. It had the worst rating out of all the other apps, but I actually found it to be a really good app. It's called iCanAnimate. I gave it a usability of 9 out of 10. It was really easy to use. The image quality was not as good as I had hoped, however. It was only a 7 out of 10, mostly because it wasn't as good as other apps, and also had a watermark on the bottom. When it comes to manual controls, iCanAnimate got a score of 8 out of 10, which is actually really incredible. I was not expecting this app to get a good rating at all. When it comes to speed, I Can Animate got a score of 10 out of 10. It was the fastest on the list. Every button you pressed automatically did its thing, and even the capture button was really fast, loaded really quickly, and I just found the whole thing really speedy and easy to use, which I really enjoy as an animator. For the interface, I Can Animate got a score of 9 out of 10. Now you might be thinking I'm biased towards this app, and maybe I am. So if you think differently, let me know in the comments below. And for reliability, I Can Animate got a score of 9 out of 10. It was very reliable, it never crashed, pretty much everything did what it was supposed to. So that brings us to a total score of 52 out of 60. So now, what you've all been waiting for, in first place, no surprise, Stop Motion Studio. You knew I was gonna say this because you know from my last video that I love Stop Motion Studio as an Android app, and I believe it also works on iOS, and it used to work on Windows. There is a free version and a paid version. The paid version is only $5. Go spend $5 on the Pro version because you get all the features. I gave it a usability score of 10 out of 10. It is so simple. It is so easy. It totally makes sense. Everything in the app makes sense. Like every button makes perfect sense. Just a great app. For image quality, Stop Motion Studio got a score of 9 out of 10. It was not perfect, but it was definitely really good. And for manual controls, Stop Motion Studio got a score of 9 out of 10, of course, because it has the most manual controls out of all of the other apps that I have reviewed on this list. It has exposure, it has zoom, it has different modes, so like a program mode and a full auto mode, a couple other modes I believe. And you can also set specific white balance, which I find to be very helpful. For speed, this app got 9 out of 10. It wasn't nearly as fast as I Can Animate, but it was still definitely fast enough for me not to really care. And for interface, Stop Motion Studio got 10 out of 10. Was really nice with all the dials. I just love the dials in this app, and I really liked how sleek and modern it was compared to other animation apps. For reliability, got a score of 10 out of 10, mostly because it was reliable. I've used it a lot more than any of the other apps, and I don't believe it's ever crashed on me, although in Windows, I do kind of remember a couple of times it did start getting stressed, whatever an app does, I don't know. But when I tested it on the Android phone, it seemed to work just fine. And in total for Stop Motion Studio, there's a score of 57 out of 60. Now you may have a different opinion about this, and if you do, let me know in the comments below what you would have rated it. And if you want to check out some more stop motion videos and stop motion tutorials, check out one of these videos or playlists right here. And then if you want to subscribe right here. That's all for today, guys, and I'll see you next time on Learning Curve Tech.